product patent was first ratified in 1995 and was put in place essentially in 2005. So I think one would expect a miracle that without having any assessment of value of a product, that people here can just keep cranking out molecules. The priority was not there. You made a lot more money doing innovations in generics. Now I think the scenario is different. We do have protection. We have some issues within India with the, I would say, I hope I don't offend anybody here, but on approval of, for doing clinical trials, etc., we do have DCGI that is slow. Our regulatory processes are not yet set in place. Our court systems are horrible, I think. So all of those structural and institutional issues still remain in India. But at least we know today that if I file a patent, somebody is not going to go around that patent. I mean, it is and that's something that has given rise to, as Mani said, even companies like us who are not suited really for doing drug discovery as a principle, but in many risk-shared deals, just like he said, we have 4 clinical candidates we developed this year. It's, I'm sorry, not preclinical candidates, so just past the efficacy stage. The regulatory work starts from there. I think same thing, Origin probably can say they have so many. So I think we are getting there. It's wasn't a level playing field, it's become a little bit level. There are still regulatory hurdles, and most of all, I think it's that capital shortage, the risk capital shortage, which will be the topic of the next panel discussion, I think. So we'll gain some insight from there.
I have often been to a 400-year-old a museum with 400 years of history of Merck Kaga in Germany. And the oldest research lab in the private sector in India is maybe like 15 years old. And I work out of that in Hyderabad, in the private sector, that is. So 15 or 20 years old. I mean, don't take me very literally, but I think in 15 or 20 years, without steroid shots coming from the government, if anything, we get just the opposite. I think we still have done amazingly well. And net, I think if we are not in all spaces, if we are not straddling biologics, if we are not straddling vaccines, and if we are not straddling small molecule research, I don't think we need to be worried about that. I think we have done extremely well in 20 years since we started. And I think if we look at the next 20 years, the steroid shot will come from our own successes. And I'm sure as companies such as ours, such as Chembiotech, such as GVK and Jubilant, all of these companies succeed, we will actually see a huge acceleration within this space. And that's something we really ought to be proud about.
I just want to make a Myra, I just make a quick comment to challenge everybody on the table, because in this commercial world, everything is about branding. So I think everybody sitting here is a leader in the CRO space in India. So how we could brand Indian CRO, and this is something we have to have a concerted effort between governments, between the industry leaders, as well as the followers. In terms of the branding India, CRO, I think we have to really think specifically how we do it, whether it's in bioinformatics, which is pretty, the IT infrastructure is already in place, and the bioinformatics could be a very gigantic business opportunity in the CRO space, or vaccine-related CROs, because vaccine production is a major revenue generating for the Indian life science sector, or the generic space. So it's something that everybody should really look inward and think how we brand Indian CRO within specific sector. So I think that's, it's a great opportunity here that we can discuss and talk about it, and hopefully we can get some solution. Thank you.
I think absolutely great comment.
But before that, I would agree with what Mr. Murthy said. Whatever those people have achieved, it took them a century. We have compacted that into just 15, 20 years.
Absolutely, I think biosimilars is the best. 100 billion, someone says 200 billion, all organizations say the different numbers. So what does the CRO panel here think about it?
Again, I don't profess to know much about that, but I just learned yesterday that, US has passed a regulation in terms of allowing biosimilars in a product segment, but I'm absolutely clueless in that area. So I think again it's something that some other companies are probably well situated to exploit at this point, but we really aren't in that business.
Yeah, like Swapan, we've been mostly focused on small molecules in the discovery area. I think Syngene is doing quite a bit of work in biologicals and biosimilars. For us, I think biosimilars does offer us a very quick and low-hanging opportunity in clinical trials. Because biosimilar, unlike like a generic, where you can do a bioequivalence and bioavailability study, biosimilar you'll have to do a clinical trial. And I think there India can potentially play quite a big role there.
And Mani, what's the regulatory
From the audience, yeah.
Scope. And they have collaborated with 5-year or whatever the collaborative research model and named it as Biocon Bristol Mayer Research Center, like that. So that doesn't give you like, okay, the client will pull out like, okay, within 1 month notice, 2 month notice kind of thing. So you have a stability of 5-year guaranteed, like, okay, you have a standard business and you have a collaborative opportunity, the money coming in, you will learn a lot, etc. So what are the advantages, threats of that? And second question of this is, I expect a lot of pharma R&Ds will come into India, like what IT happened. But looks like that has not happened in a big way. But do you expect like, okay, when you go to big pharma companies, will they see like, okay, you have all established all the facilities, whatever is needed, like needed manpower, equipment, everything is there. Do they ask you like, okay, why can't I take over your company? We'll pay you this much or whatever. Whether that kind of a takeover scenario will come in future to establish their R&D in India. Thank you.
I think the man who set up BBR, I think it's a very unique model and something that CROs like GVK Bio would want to pursue. I think it definitely gives you stability, etc. We had done one with Wyeth, and that terminated after some time after Pfizer acquired Wyeth. So that didn't continue, but we were in the same lines, and that was the first deal, and then BBRC happened after that. I think deals like this, if we can make them happen, I think it's good for the industry. Your second comment was about, like the IT industry, why we don't have so many companies here. I think it's really a policy issue. And, when companies like Pfizer or Roche or Genentech or, you name them, Merck and Sanofi and AstraZeneca, and everyone has got a research center in China. One of the policies in China is that if you sell in the market, the money that you make in China, you cannot repatriate it back to your parent country without paying high tax. If you invest it in the country, then there's no tax on it or very low tax. So they are incentivized that whatever money you make in the country, you invest in the country. And so literally, I mean, if I'm a CFO of one of these companies, I'll say I get a research center for free, because if I take it back to the US, I end up paying so much tax. I leave it here, I get a research center for free. India, on the other hand, has much more open policies, and we let money be repatriated back. Now, that's something I think we have to take at the highest level of the government and say, do we want to pass policies like this, etc. So I think that's one of the main reasons we're seeing a lot of this. Of course, the markets are big, and so China market is bigger than India, and so there's also an incentive for these companies to set up presence there. So I think that's what's happening now, and it's happening even in the IT area now with China.
To sit to the next session, we'll do that, and to give all the credit, the first such thing was actually GVK Bio and Wyeth, and not BBRC. BBRC came second in that list. As far as the IT outsourcing is concerned and India's position, I think people have to also probably keep in mind the out of total outsourcing market in IT, only 5% are done in India. IBM and others, there are much bigger players still there in that game. What you see is a big number because IT is something, particularly financial and banking IT is something that you use every day. So there is a huge number of people work in writing codes and modifying codes and developing new codes and maintaining those codes. This is another point maybe we should talk later on, that in the pharma CRO business, this maintenance business is almost nil compared to what you see in IT. And that's where they put a whole lot of people than just writing new codes and delivering. So maybe we should talk about these things into the next session because these are very close in their theme. So thank you.
So, of course, the real two buzzwords which I could pick up from the entire discussion is about innovation and integration. So yes, we really see a great opportunity for the CRO industry in India. We need to move from the FT studies to maybe the in-licensing deals. We also have to be a concept to a provider. So till the regulatory frameworks are closed, a commercial molecule, I think that's where the things are moving forward. Breadth versus depth, as Mr. Murthy had connected here, depth is the thing, moving forward in future. Currently, we do not have any country-specific strategy. We are very good in chemistry. That's where we are focusing. But changing our business model at this point of time as a private owner without any steroid injections by the government, it is very difficult, to expand into the others. Although we would love to do clinical trials and drug discovery. Who would say no to a business coming in? But there are a lot of other ecosystem parameters which we have to look at, making those decisions. So I would say we can continue the discussions offline once we get on, but I would like a big round of applause for the panelists here and the interactive audience we had. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Yes, ready, sir. So just a second. Yes, ready, sir. So just a second, sir. So one more, please. Yes, ready, sir. Thank you, Mr. Thank you.